You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com. Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where it's casual conversations for serious workflows. And phew, Rachel, I'm glad to see you.
I'm here. I just on a quiet call and I was just talking and talking. And then I got your text. So I'm very sorry, but I'm here.
I was like, well, I hate talking to myself, so I appreciate you making time for us here. Because I'm
About the new invoices.
yeah, I'm very interested in your opinion of this because what we're talking about today is the new invoice experience, and I'm using the air quotes there because that's the term that Intuit has bantered about, that this is all a new experience, and some of the things that you're supposed to be experiencing with this new experience. And you, as an accountant, a bookkeeping professional, may be experiencing some of the things that you didn't intend to experience, and that's what we're going to kind of unpack here today. So, initial thoughts from what you have experienced with this new experience. What is your initial takeaway? I know you're not going to mince words.
Well, okay, if I had to rate it on a grading scale, I would give it a D.
So
And there's
not
a
just
couple
because that's your
different reasons why.
last name initial.
Yeah. There's a couple reasons why, and I don't know if I want to get into it because I don't know if you're going to demo it and show it, but there's a
Yeah,
couple different reasons why, and maybe I can chime in when you get to those things.
sure.
That might be best.
Yeah, the way we're going to kind of go through is we'll talk about, what's changing, kind of give an overview of the high level changes, and speak to what we can, what we feel the direction of this, and why, because that's typically the question that immediately comes up. Why are you changing this? It
Well, for a while
was
there,
working
you let us
before.
toggle back and forth between the old and the new, and I kept going old, old, old. And now you
Please.
can't, and it's driving me insane. But just no, for now, I'm giving it a D, and I'll explain why
Okay.
as time goes on.
Well, maybe I might be able to upgrade to at least to a D plus, maybe a C minus by the end of this
Maybe,
workshop.
maybe.
Because I have to say, and my initial thought was like with you, it was like, oh my gosh, they took away more than what they're adding. So the puts and takes when it comes to these types of things doesn't seem to be making sense. I see the rumblings on social media about, how challenging this is, because it's a core function of QuickBooks, right? Is
Yeah.
making money, make the sale. So when you are potentially impacting people's methods of making money, and revenue producing activities, that is going to get a lot of notice, right? So let me just share my screen here real quick, and we'll talk a little bit about what's happening here. So turn the right one. Oh, uh-oh. There we go. So what we're talking about here is this: there's a new estimate and invoice layout, and they're calling it an experience, in what is available, uh, what you're able to do, right? And so I wrote a blog about it. I love this picture. It's, should
That
you
was
do this,
pure
right?
dread.
What's that?
I said she's filled with fear and dread.
Right. Exactly. So I'm going to put this in the comments here so you can check it out later. We'll put this workshop on this blog article as well, so that you can review it all at the same time. But the big thing is, why the change, right? And the typically, from my experience working at Intuit, when changes roll out, especially in QuickBooks Online, it's not like QuickBooks Desktop where you have a whole year to kind of develop these new features and make them available. With an online product, it's kind of a launch and learn, right? Um, and in Intuit is typically going to, launch a new feature and gather some feedback about it and make adjustments and changes based off of that. So as near as I can tell, I have no, insider knowledge or anything about that with regards to this initiative and this change. It's always been, even when I work there, it's always been a complaint about the sales form customization, being able to adjust and make the invoice and the sales forms look like you want them to look, whatever that may be. You want these columns to look such and such a way. You want them positioned in a certain way. Um, and QuickBooks Online has been always kind of behind the curve, especially when you place it up against desktop, right? Because desktop has the layout designer. You can be very descriptive when it comes to where do you want your bill to field to actually look at, because it's going to show up in that envelope when you mail out your invoices. All of these things you can get very granular. You can decide what you see on the screen versus what you see printed out. Yeah, you can do a lot of things with
Mhm.
the designing of your templates inside of desktop. And QuickBooks Online has always been kind of like the light version of that, right? Where you have some functionality, you can change your columns, but you don't really have the ability to turn things on the screen and not on the printout. So that I think is where what is driving this whole change, right? And, in that regard, the new invoice look is kind of neat where you have it all in one place, right? You don't have to go to different places
Right.
to change and see what it will look like for your customer versus what shows up in an email and what do they see when they go to pay, right? So that is what's driving this whole change. And when they do something very fundamental like that, because they did this before with sales forms, is that they pretty much removed any options that you did have in order to rebuild that foundation and then build upon it, right?
Right.
So this is what's causing the friction when it comes to this new estimate and invoice experience, is that there's been some things removed that people were using, which, of course, now they're realizing how much people use these features
Yeah.
and, when they're removed. So let's take a look here. So this is the old layout, right? This is the way things looked prior to all of these changes, where you're able to, create your sales forms on the screen. Let me go ahead and close this. If I temptingly click on update layout here
Is
in
this
the right,
is this, your is this new? I mean, did it lets you open it up in the old form?
this just happened to be a company that I tested a data conversion on, and
Oh, okay.
uh it just didn't get the new and improved
Okay.
experience yet, right? So I have this option to click on uh update layout.
Oh,
Look at that zoom. Ooh,
okay.
pretty.
Wow.
Right, I can click on that, but it's a one-way ticket to the new experience. There's
Wow.
no flipping back and forth, because after May 6th, even if you have this option, you if you click it, you're done, and it doesn't tell you that you can't flip back and forth. It just it is what it is, and you're not gonna do that. So I'm gonna go over to another company that is just a demo. Let me pop back over here. And coincidentally, since this has been going on, QuickBooks seems to be running really slow. Mm. But that's that. All right. So I go into an invoice here. This is the new experience, right? So first thing is here you have this uh, edit, email view, PDF view, and payor view at the top, right? So kind of looking, if I let me bring up a previous.
That I don't
Yeah.
mind. That part I actually
Yep.
don't mind.
Yeah,
It's fine.
this is kind of a neat thing, right? Like where you can create
Mhm.
the invoice here, you and then you can see. Whoops, I got to choose the right template. I can actually see it. You can see what it looks like when it's emailed. You can see what the customer will see when they open it, and then when they if you have QuickBooks Payments enabled, it'll be what they'll see when they get the email, right?
Yeah, but
And
I
when
don't
they click,
understand when you first open it up and then you wanna see the PDF view and or the email view, and then it says, "You have to change to the modern view in order you gotta tick that box." Why is that even a thing? Why do you have to do that step in order to see it?
because your templates are still there, right? So your old templates. If I go to the gear here and over to custom form styles, these older templates are still here to choose from, right? And those older invoice templates that have been customized in the older experience
Yeah.
don't have that view where you could look at it all in one place.
So but
It's
technically, I could use
Mhm.
one of my older templates
Exactly.
in
You can
this
still
new
use your old
experience.
templates, and some features will be able to be
Okay,
added on into that into that sidebar that we'll talk about. But that email PDF view and payor view is won't be visible, right? So I still have all of these templates to use from before. It's just I don't have the neat polished features of seeing it all in one place, right?
got it.
So speaking of all in one place, I went grab it away from my one place. Go back there. Obviously, the other thing that is a big change is some of the things that were on the bottom.
Okay,
Where'd they
now
go?
you're getting to my gripe.
Right? They were on the bottom. Now where'd they go? Right. So when you're looking at a pre-recorded invoice, you're going to see this actions drop down here, where you're going to be able to.
There it is.
Right.
There. I was
Right.
like,
Because
if I
this.
can put the transaction journal under here, I am gonna throw a chair out my window.
Yes. So they're in here in the actions, which used to
They're
be underneath.
there. Okay, well, it's fine. But it caused me confusion, and
Right.
here's why, because I'm sure you do this too. I'm talking about for cleanups. A lot of times, if they're in I deal with a lot of inventory, I know you do too. And a lot of times if I'm doing cleanups and I want to look at the transaction journal and what's been going on with older invoices, I was like, what the heck is the transaction journal? And so Jamie and I were having to like go in through the P&L and were these posting cons? I don't know. And we were having to like go in from all over the place to try and determine if these were posting cons or if they weren't. And I was like, did they do away with this? Like, that's why I gave it a D. But
Yeah.
if that's
Now we're
still
up to
there,
D
I'm
plus.
coming up. I'm now coming up to a B minus.
Oh,
Being
okay.
grade is minus. Well,
That
I can
was
get
a
it.
that was a big that was a big
Yeah.
red mark on the essay.
Yeah. Well,
Incidentally,
I thought they completely did away with it. So I was
right,
like, oh, that can't be.
incidentally, even if they didn't have it there, there's a keyboard shortcut, which is Control Option Y. Okay, that didn't work.
Wow. Really? Oh, I never knew that
Okay.
either. Okay.
Control Alt Y if you're on a window. Okay, it was working a second ago. Maybe it's Command. Yes.
Wait,
Control
why?
Command
Oh, I
Y
don't have command,
is
but
the
I do have the little
it's a little
window.
Apple key. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
well,
Windows key.
you know what, even though I have a Mac, I have a Windows keyboard because my Mac
Oh my
one broke.
goodness.
So I have that little, like, Windows thingy, and that acts as my command.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
there we go.
it's basically what you get. Oh gosh, why is this? There we go. So bringing up this window
Yeah,
gives you all of the command or the keyboard shortcuts, but this is Control Command or Control on a Windows machine. Control Alt Y. You know, I want to
okay.
understand why this is posting where it is. That's what brings up the journal. If you also have the right tool extension, you can program that, in your right tool
Yeah.
extension as well.
Well,
Anywho's,
can you program in Right Tool, can you do bring up transaction journal as a
I
favorite?
was talking to Hector about it, and he was thinking that he was saying something that you could, but either way, there's the keyboard shortcut.
Okay.
Um, but that does that. Okay, so anything that you're needing to do as far as changes to the invoice itself that you see on the screen is going to be from this manage gear, because there aren't enough gears inside of QuickBooks. There's another gear here, right? So you've got your default settings, which will take you to sales settings. So that if you need to turn on shipping or if you need to turn on discounts globally, that will take you to your settings. You've got your actions here, which can make a copy, delete, void. You see your audit history, as well as that transaction journal, your status. So, what is that activity? So you can see whether it's viewed, whether it's paid, deposited, those types of things will show in the status dropdown. Customization is where you're going to be adding or taking away columns. Now, the new invoice actually will tell you what's hidden from customers. So, in this case, the business or the location tracking that I had turned on is hidden. Class is hidden. So, which will give it an idea when you look at it in the email view or the PDF view that they won't see that, but you can see it on the screen whether it's hidden or not. But you can add columns to the header at the top. So if it's a ship to you, the invoice number, the date, terms. But if you want on the line item level, if you want to show the SKU or the service date, you can add those there, as well as your custom fields that might be at the top. Whoops, I didn't mean to click on. Back. And there we go. Okay. And then this is what I think that this payment options, this is what was driving, not just in the sales form customization, but this is probably what was driving the, 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 the main force driving behind the change here.
Yeah.
With payment options, you're able to, I don't have payments turned on here, but you can activate your how they're paid, which you could do before, but now you're going to be there's an additional option, which is being able to accept through Venmo and PayPal. Now people would say, well, why don't I just accept payment through Venmo and PayPal outside of the invoice? Well, this is doing it all under the umbrella of QuickBooks payments, right? So just like American Express and Discover that fancy themselves as unique and different and charge different rates, transaction fees for accepting those cards, which, was always the thing. It was like, oh, we don't take American Express because those fees are higher with American Express when you take American Express cards or Discover card, and they're handled batched differently. QuickBooks Payments puts this all under one umbrella. So what this allows you to do is to take those payment methods, but the fees are homogenized. So they'll all be the same fees, and the experience of what happens to those payments will be homogenized as well and be under the QuickBooks payments experience, right? So we love QuickBooks payments here.
I
So
loved it.
so it's it this is this is a nice feature to have and to offer because we're going to talk next week about PayPal,
Oh, I
right?
love
And
PayPal.
the
Love
things,
PayPal.
some of the challenges that you end up having with PayPal, but when you mix, PayPal expenses, paying for things as a business owner and receiving funds, it gets infinitesimally more complicated to reconcile and keep track of that sort of thing.
That's
Here,
why I love it.
it's a revenue source for Rachel and her team, right?
Yeah.
So,
Dan, let me ask you a question. So I actually really do like the placing of this in this kind of right-hand window because it used to be right in the middle of at the top.
it
And
needs to be
a
up
lot of
here.
times I don't have a lot of clients that are invoicing because I do a lot of e-commerce, but actually that's not true because I have a lot of clients that are e-commerce, but they're still invoicing, even if it's a little out of QuickBooks. And a lot of times I would set them up on invoicing and I would say, okay, at the middle of the screen, at the very top, and they'd be like, where? And so I like this is easier to find. But my question
All in one
about
plate, collapsible, right? So
yeah, collapsible, which is nice. Now the Venmo fee and the PayPal fee, because now we're getting into like stuff I like. So you're saying this is now under the umbrella of QuickBooks Payments. They're not double dinging you on a Venmo fee? If you have
no,
Venmo business or PayPal business, you're only going to see one fee now, and it's going to
right.
be your
It's
standard
going to be through
PayPal or
here,
Venmo
and
fee.
you'll see the payment in your merchant center for QuickBooks Payments. It'll be batched, and funded through the whole QuickBooks Payments process, which means the payment will be recorded, the deposit will be recorded, the fee will
Yeah,
be decorded and recorded in the deposit will be reconciled
yeah, that I
when
really
that
like.
happens, right? So you aren't necessarily needing to reconcile a Venmo. It's not a Venmo account that's
Part of
separate.
the trouble is when you're dealing with Venmo, when you have people that are collecting payments through Venmo, you're in the bank feed, you're saying Venmo. Like, that's it.
Yep.
So you don't know what invoice it's associated with. So the fact that
Correct.
it's aligned
Like
with QuickBooks Payments means
it's like trying to, itemize your Amazon purchases,
yeah,
right? They all
exactly.
come.
And we have a lot of people that do it this way with Venmo. Um, so I love this that now it'll auto match it with the appropriate invoice. That is huge.
Yep.
But I guess what I'm still not sure about is now this is what you're saying is because Venmo, just the transaction fee in PayPal and Venmo is what it is. So are you saying that it's not an additional fee
Right.
to now
This is not
use
an
it?
additional fee. You don't get charged by PayPal at all. PayPal charges QuickBooks Payments, and then
Right.
they get their funds from PayPal, and then QuickBooks Payments charges you,
Yeah.
right? But you know what you're getting charged. So you whatever your rates are for all credit card charges, that will be the same thing for
Yeah.
Venmo, right?
Oh,
So I
that's
mean,
great.
yeah. So it's homogenized. The fees are homogenized. The experience is homogenized. It's consistent. I don't want to say homogenized because I'm thinking milk now. Uh,
Yeah. But I can't express to you how convoluted PayPal can be in the bank feeds, and this is so huge.
yeah. Um,
I
again,
mean, maybe we're getting to it.
this only works, right, if you're invoicing and accepting the payment
Yeah,
from the invoice, right? So if you're collecting payments through PayPal somewhere else and, that not
that's
using an
the thing.
invoice, then you won't be able to
Yeah,
utilize that. Something
that's
new as well is the ability to take a deposit. This is also
Ooh.
on estimates. So you'll be able to send an estimate and request a deposit on the estimate, and then they can pay through QuickBooks Payments, take that deposit. I don't know what the accounting side of it is, if it actually goes to unearned revenue or just shows up as a payment waiting to be waiting to be applied when you get a billing. Haven't seen that yet, but this will allow you to do this right from the transaction itself.
have you not seen something in settings that, you can map
Yeah,
that?
I mean, there is a setting, and I assume it will use the same, the same setting mapping. This just will allow them to put in what the deposit should be, and it will
Yeah.
fill in. You can, on the estimate side of things, you can suggest what the
Yeah.
deposit should be,
Yeah.
right? And ask what that, make a suggestion for the deposit. And then you can, again, do your things at the footer. So you've got your invoice total, discounts, and then whether or not there's shipping fee or not. All of those things will be added to or not. So same functionality as you had before. Is just where you see it. You don't have that little. Um, I think it was a double-headed arrow to switch the sales tax before or after the discount, the global discount on the bottom. Then we have design, which, as we saw, you can choose your previous designs, but they will not have this email, PDF, pay or view option. Or you have your one choice of modern. Now, it's not always. I don't think it's going to be the only choice for very long. You'll probably get the other choices that are there, the airy, fresh, whatever, the styles that are there. This is typical of a change like this. Is all right. Let's just give you the core functionality
Yeah.
of what you need, and then we'll add on as we launch and learn. Right.
Which I'm fine with. Personally, I'm one of those weirdos. I don't care what it looks like. I
Right.
know a lot of
I
people do.
appreciate you stating that you
Yeah. I mean, a lot of
acknowledge.
people do. I only care about the functionality. I'm like, whatever, like, slap whatever you want on it.
All right. Scheduling. Now, this is where you would go to make this a recurring transaction. This is,
Oh, that
um,
where that goes.
yeah, see, and that's part of the grudge about these changes, because when you get used to having it down here in the bottom to make recurring, this takes now some extra clicks to make it a recurring invoice, and then it will show up with here. Probably is just some adding to the learning curve of doing these sorts of things, right? And you can
Yeah,
change.
and I'll add a little thing. I'll tell you why that can be. I think a lot of pro advisors are not complaining just for the sake of complaining, although I know a lot of them do. Um, I think this is always my take is a lot of times I'll explain to my client. I make a lot of videos for them or whatever, and or even just over email, I'll explain to them, oh, okay, at the very bottom, if you want to make this recurring, you'll find it at the bottom. And I'm telling them the wrong thing. And
Mm,
that's where I don't like that. I don't want to look bad. And so now I know it's on me that, if they roll out something, I'm expected to learn it and understand it. And that's all fine and great. And I will. But there's usually some type of in between fit time where I'm always telling them the wrong thing. Always.
yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, thanks, guys. Right.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked at Intuit, it was typically the first call of the day. I learned what changes took place
Yeah.
because the first person would tell me, "Oh, okay. Oh, that changed. Okay, well, let's just
Yeah.
double check."
Or I'm like, "Oh, man, they just changed this," and it looks like I'm making some excuse, right? Like, I don't love that.
Yeah. So Jamie is asking this question about where's the audit trail? It's not in the bottom anymore. It's in the actions, right? So you won't
Yeah,
see
see,
that audit history.
I said the same thing.
You won't see the audit history on a brand new transaction because it's not been recorded yet. On a previously recorded
Yeah.
transaction, that will be there. Hide that. And then down at the bottom, so we got the scheduling piece. Let's go. You have the print later, and then you can also schedule automatic payment reminders. I forgot to turn off Jamie's question. You have the automatic payment reminders, which, if you don't know it's turned on, um, you may want to make sure that you check this out, because it will invoice them 3 days, potentially 3 days before on the due date, in 3 days after it's due. So if you don't have those, if you don't have those turned on, it's not automatically going to send that, but it will
Oh,
send
so it's
those
default
if
to them being off?
um, I don't know what the default is because I've played around with it so many times. I don't know
Okay. I'll go in.
what the
I'll go in
default
then.
is, but you may want to look at it. Especially the first
Yeah.
time that you click on the update now, if because you won't have a choice, right? Because this will ultimately be rolled out to everybody, even if you have the old view. And then once you have a customer on there, you also have access to the customer reports of open invoices and all transactions for that customer. So
Well,
it's a nice
that's nice.
launching point for an all-in-one place, which is, I think, the intention of all of this is to put all of your invoicing actions and things that would be customer related on one screen and use that as a launch pad. You know,
Yeah.
so
I like that
it
actually.
so after all of that, where do we sit now with your grading scale?
I think we've come up to a solid A minus. And the only
Oh,
reason I'll tell you why it's an A minus,
uh-huh.
because the print is too small. But other than that,
Well,
I
that's
know
what Zoom's for.
I'm like an elderly lady. I can't see anything.
Wait, you mean you can't read that? What's wrong with
But I don't mind it,
um,
and that's the thing is actually when I was, it kept you kind of were toggling back and forth between the old and the new before. I mean, not yeah, before, and the newer one was fine. I didn't really have a problem with the design. But the first few things I noticed was like, dang, this print is small, and where's all my things at the bottom? And that was my original gripe with it. But now I know they just moved them around. As long as they don't take that ability away.
right. Well, let's talk about some of the things that are not possible that were
Oh
possible before,
yeah.
right? So, price rules, if you didn't know they even existed, it's not a huge thing. But if you were using price rules, they aren't available on this new experience. Doesn't mean they will always never be available. It just means that today, as of May 15th, 2024 at 1:35 Eastern time, it's not available, right? Other features that are missing, the reference links displaying matched transactions, like the old experience had the, you know, connected transaction of, there's too many two estimates or two payments. Though that kind of history isn't currently there. If it was matched to an online banking transaction, that reference link isn't there. We'll talk about price rules because I did come up with a workaround. Adding previous attachments. I'm not sure what that means. As far as attachments, you can, attach things, and the attachments will be there. So I don't know if they were previously attached, if they come along for the ride, what
Maybe
exactly that means.
if you copy the invoice,
Maybe.
or you know how sometimes you change an invoice or something and it'll ask, do you do you want, like, if you change that, you'll lose your attachment or something? Wasn't there some kind of alert like that?
Yeah,
Maybe that's not gonna be
I
there
don't
anymore.
use
You
I don't
automatically
use
use it.
enough attachments to really understand what it is that they're doing there, or what is gained or lost. The attachments, I'm sure, are still in the attachment list,
Mhm.
and you may have to reattach, if something
Yeah.
gets lost there, which of course is wasting valuable seconds, uh, of your day to be able to do that,
Right.
and it is a nuisance for sure. Billable mileage tracking. So if you're using the mileage tracker and you're billing it back to the customer, the mileage tracking doesn't show up on the sidebar that shows up. But this other big one here is copying estimates to purchase orders. That functionality is, if you were using it, it was definitely. a nice option. I haven't gone into too much detail to see if you just start a purchase order and estimates show up on the sidebar like they used to, or if that is even an
Wouldn't
option.
that be in the search and the bill section? Why would this that be associated with an invoice?
If you're creating an estimate and you're purchasing it directly, if you're making the order specific for the customer, you could in prior as
Oh,
prior
I see. Okay,
experience,
okay.
you could copy the entire estimate to the items
And then I
on the
see to an
estimate
invoice
to a
bill.
purchase order,
Got
which
it.
makes it a pain. So now after the workshop, I want to play around with seeing it from the purchase order side of things, see if that works or not, because I want to get back to this price rules thing. So here, it should be in the right company. Actually, without saving, I should have shown it first. But let's go back to an invoice, brand new. I'll put a little customer in here. All right. Then I go and add this. Where'd it go? Right. My rate is here. I only have one option. Right. Um, I have set up a price rule for that particular item, so I'll just show that to you here. Price rules. I set it up so that it's just this one item, right? So it's a 10% discount. I go take a look at it. It is it's for all customers. Uh, oh, actually, it's for a variety of items, but it gives them a 10% or yeah, a 10% discount. This is more. Oh, that's right. 10% discount on sales price for all clients, all inventory items, right? So when I add this item onto an invoice, I don't see that option. So the way to get around this, if you are using price rules, you can use an unknown feature because I know nobody knew about this when I was working with them. It's like this delayed charge and delayed credit. They still are in the old format, right?
Mm.
So if I wanted to use
I've never even used this.
right, exactly, you are not alone in this process. So what a delayed charge and a delayed credit is they're non-posting transactions that that look like that feed into invoices or credits, right?
Okay.
So you can set up these delayed charges ahead of time, right? And then
Yeah.
just I'm going to put a bunch of them in here. They still have the drop down here for the price rules, right? So I can choose
Oh,
like and what this is it's choosing the 10% discount price rule,
wow.
right? So I'm going to save this. That was 1, 2, 3 schedules.
Man, Dan, you are good.
Where there is a
Yeah, all
will,
kinds of
there's a
sneaky
workaround.
good for you. Yeah, that's really
So
cool.
now I'm going to go into the invoice. I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3 schedules. And lo and behold, here's that delayed charge that I can just
They
add to
popped
the
up on the
invoice.
yeah.
And now those items are there with the right price, right? So that is one way to get around this, because the challenge is you can't use price rules at all, right? On an invoice, you would have to go through and modify the price, all the time, or use a discount line item, or global discount, uh,
Yeah.
various other things, but probably never exactly as precise as the work you've already done to set up your price rules, right?
I
So
wonder
using a
why they
delayed,
had that. I feel like it
I'm sure it'll be
feel
back,
yeah,
right?
that's what
I'm
I was
sure,
gonna say. It feels like maybe something when they engineered this new format, maybe it just didn't work right with it. Maybe they're still working on it and we'll see it.
yeah, it's usually one of those things that, well, this is, because the way it was best described to me, when talking about, the coding of this, is imagine a ball of rubber bands, right?
Mhm.
And that's the QuickBooks Online code, right? Or any software is a ball. The code is a ball of rubber bands, and they all have, and they work the way they work today as that ball of rubber band. Now, if there's a defect, a breakage, and it's on the inside of the rubber band, they got to pull back every rubber band and fix the underlying source and put all the rubber bands back in the exact same way,
You sound
right?
like you're describing a cleanup that I'm working on. I wish
Are they a
people
rubber
could
band company?
understand that definition of what is going on in a very complex cleanup.
Yeah. So it's this Humpty Dumpty, right? It had a great fall, and trying to put it all back together again in the exact same method. Sometimes those rubber bands don't get aligned. Maybe you've got a different thickness, when you try to put things back together of the different rubber bands. And this is one of the outcomes of that
Or,
sort of thing. It's
or
like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to use price rules with all of this stuff, with all the rubber bands that we put back together, right? And then it's going to be another project to figure out,
yeah,
okay, what exactly did we do wrong here? And it's far easier sometimes to just turn off a feature than try to,
yeah.
because there could be, unintended consequences of the feature being in there, right?
Well, yeah, because then
I
you're
don't
affecting other things. You could
exactly.
you're something about, but I was gonna say,
So
or it's like if I am like putting an IKEA piece of furniture together and then there's a whole pile of screws on the floor that I didn't
exactly.
use. And my
Where'd that
husband's like,
extra part come?
yeah, my husband's like, I don't think it's supposed to be like, and I'm like, don't worry, it's fine.
That's where you get, the spouse to sit on the chair first.
Now,
Try it.
just now, dirt put things together.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So,
leave it.
exactly. So we have, this whole thing of, okay, well, we just had to remove some rubber bands, so that, we get the initiatives that we want to see happen, and the foundation is there, and we'll add those things, back on, right? So, the thing in the mobile app, right? There's a couple things in there, like you can't support multi-currency, on this in the mobile app, but you can on the web. So,
Yeah, yeah.
these are some of those things that, we need to provide feedback, constantly in the upper right here. We have this whole, whoops, control. There we go. The feedback button, which actually does go somewhere, but QuickBooks has millions of users. And if everyone's putting in feedback about this, um, I think the best way I could describe it is that it's not a griping place, right? It's not a place to gripe. It is a place to put in actionable feedback, right?
Mhm.
Um, one of the guys, data analysts I used to work with, he says, "In God we trust. All others bring actionable data." Right,
Well,
right.
they're
So
doing the might be something that they hadn't thought of, and,
exactly,
I'm
yeah.
sure they probably, you know, haven't thought of everything, and so I'm sure from time to time, there is something that somebody suggests in feedback that they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
yeah."
Yeah, I mean, but this is just not the place to put in, "This sucks," and that's their feedback, because that's not actionable. Like, well, what
No,
would make it
and you
suck
already tried
less?
that, and it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
So, what would make it suck less is what they're looking for, and
Yeah.
give them, steps to duplicate if you can, like here on this screen, or provide screenshots, or things of that nature, so that if it's duplicatable, it's fixable, and that's what they would need. Hey, Matthew, good to see you.
Yeah, Matthew's there.
and we're just about done.
Yeah. No, Matthew.
So that let me just make sure I covered everything we did. Yeah, feedback. So
But
there are
Matthew,
some
we
nice.
will have to show you this cool workaround that Dan described with price rules because it is
Yeah,
very cool.
it's extra seconds, but it is definitely a viable option, some extra steps. So we'll watch a recording. We'll
Yeah.
purpose just that portion because I think as this is something that people who are using price rules need to know, that that it's way less time than going through every line item and changing the price.
Yeah,
Love
definitely.
language.
And really cool. Oh, and by the way, I originally assigned a grade of D minus to the new
Yeah.
invoice layout. But with all of Dan's demoing and explaining, I have now raised my grade to an A minus.
All right. Well,
Well, because I
that's
think,
passing, right?
yeah, and I thought they took away
An
certain
A minus is
features.
still a 4.0 in
Yeah,
on your transcripts.
yeah. No, an A minus isn't, unfortunately.
Oh, it's
Um,
not. Oh, it's
but
well,
what I was going to say is,
that shows my age now.
I thought, well, I'm dealing with transcripts right now, but that's why I don't accept an A minus. Because I'm really anal retentive. But, now I was gonna say that I thought they took they now as and you this will be available in the recording, and, Dan had mentioned that, you can certain things that changed, and there are some things that they did take away that are relevant, and you can see that in the recording. But the fact that they really only moved the things that I thought they took away
Yeah,
made my grade go up to an A minus. Now it's an A minus because
significantly.
I still don't like that it's got small print. I can't see it. And wait, what was the other reason?
I don't know. I have to watch the video to get your
I
to
forgot
get
the other reason that I was still that I gave it an A minus. I took off some points for I think it was because it's got small print and and the fact that they moved the transaction journal and things like that, that caused me confusion. So, knocked off a couple
right.
points for that.
Yes, those people who use QuickBooks on a daily basis, on a regular basis, love change, right? Everybody moves the cheese.
Oh,
And,
math says
and as
jacking up
Matthew's saying,
the
it is
calculator.
jacking up the default templates. Yes. So, so that's kind of an overview of that. We will put this on the blog article as well, and repurpose some of these demos for later use. We appreciate you joining us tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week. We're not having the workshop next week. We are we're having it next week. We're having and we're going to be starting to talk about PayPal and Square and all of those funky app connections. See how excited you need help.
All right,
You
that.
have
It's a
that kind of
short one.
reaction.
No, Jamie does too.
Well, we will see you next week on the workshop. We appreciate you joining us today. Have a great week, everyone.